Well, how's everyone doing today? We're doing this right around Memorial Day. So I figured for the day, the hell with it. I ditched the shirt with the collar and I put on my Navy t-shirt. And the music that you hear in the background, that's from 1985. How many of you guys out there can remember We Are the World? You know, I really dig this. I truly do. I love this song. And there's Michael hitting those high notes. We are the world. Well, what's it going to be? We are the world, or I guess in our case, maybe we needed to say, we are the country. You know, it's funny. I hear, or I used to hear, all these Republicans and these conservatives, and I'm talking about these New Day, New Jack Republicans. And it's funny, because these guys are always talking about, oh, well, we're a laughingstock. And I'm wondering, well, hell, man. Of course we're laughing stocks. Of course America is a laughing stock. You had Trump in there for 4 years. And if that doesn't make a country a laughing stock, I don't know what the hell does. It's funny. I was watching something before I came down here. Smithsonian put it out. It's about the Civil War. What's it called? 360 degrees, and they try to give you the whole Civil War vista from everyone's perspective. White women. Black people, black women. It's black men. It's very good. And one thing really caught my eye, and that's this: the Republican Party has really become the party of treason. These birds have they betrayed everything that they originally stood for. And I think that is such a crying shame. And I think that people need to realize it. These people are basically, the Republicans of today, I should say, they're basically the Confederacy nowadays. And I think that we need to bear that in mind. Now, I tell you, it really upsets me. And yes, a lot of things upset me. But one of the really big things that upsets me, this whole business about guns. I think that this is something that is just, it's insanity. What we have to do, we need a big couch for all 300, and how many are we now? I think we're about 340 million people. We need a big couch. Remember now, we have 340 million people, give or take, in this country. We have over 400 million guns. What is that saying? about us. What kind of people are we? What kind of human beings are we that we are all not out in the streets in front of our representative's office screaming the high heavens to end this insanity? What will history say about us? That in the first half of the 21st century, uh, we take it as normal that it's okay to slaughter each other, to slaughter our children. You know, you have this, well, let me put it to you like this. I don't agree with Nancy Pelosi at times, but this business about, this whole communion thing with the Roman Catholic Church, which I'm knowledgeable about. I'm a former American Roman Catholic myself. Emphasis on former. The bishop out there that tried to stop her from getting communion, it's attitudes like that. That's why I'm a former American Roman Catholic. But no one ever said anything in the church about bigotry, hunting people of color. They don't. Shouldn't you be denied communion because you're preaching hate? I don't. This is what is so crazy about the American Catholic Church. If I'll tell you quite frankly, if I had not come back when my time was up in the regular Navy, I would have stayed in Europe, and I would probably stay the Catholic, quite frankly. It's a lot different for the most part. You have these cells in Europe, you have some in France that are basically ultra right wing. Okay. But as far as, the average person, the average Catholic, you don't have the insanity as you have here. Following behind evangelicals, following behind people that, quite frankly, they originally despised the Roman Catholic Church. The only thing that really brought them together was the fact that they both have a dim view of abortion, which, as we know, or as people should know, Christ never spoke about it. It's not located anywhere in the Bible. It wasn't even considered worthy to be a subject of discussion when the founders were drawing up the Constitution. And yet, nowadays, the Republicans, the GOP, the right wing, they want to make such a big deal about a woman's uterus. And see, that's just about control. Now, I know you have some women out there, they want to see their fellow women controlled. I don't know, social reasons, political reasons, who knows? Who cares? This is supposed to be a country based upon freedom. And what we have now seen with the Republican Party and the right wing in general is this idea that, I want my freedom so that I can repress your freedom. And see, no, that's not the way that it works, quite frankly. And I just also want to say on this subject, because we're coming into the midterms, it will be a disaster for the American people, I think for our Constitution, if we allowed the Republicans back in power, quite frankly. I mean, why are you going to trust a party that shows you they have no respect for law and order? You know, it's funny because I hope cops in this country, across this country, unless they are, really hardcore bigots, but I believe that most sane cops, regardless of color, I know uh, if I was on the force, I would have to vote Democratic because the Republicans have allied themselves with terrorists. They have now become the terrorist party. Look what they did to those law enforcement people on January 6th. I think killed one or two, pushed the rest about, I don't know, almost 100, some huge number, pushed them to suicide. And I hope that law enforcement across the country are taking a good look at this and the behavior of the Republican Party and their allies. It's wild. And now, and I am a registered Democrat, I have to say that for transparency. Now, I hope that my party, the Democratic Party, I hope that we show a little macho, a little testicular hoopah, and begin the process to impeach Clarence Thomas. Yeah, that's what I said. And I will be asking that question of my representative from my district in the Bronx. And I think all of you folks need to ask your representatives where you live. Are you down with this idea of impeaching Clarence Thomas? Because there's only one answer to the question. Yes. Yes. Why? Well, here in New York, we see a lot of, court cases. But can you imagine what would happen if a guy's a judge, right? Or a woman is a judge, and their son is suspected or on trial for some type of crime. And the judge decided to sit on a case that involves his or her son or his or her wife or spouse. I don't think that the courthouse down around Center Street here in Manhattan, my God, I don't think it will be able to stand from the noise of people just screaming, hell no. You can't judge a case that you have family involved. How the hell could you do that? How could you even think that you have the right to do that? Favoritism? Oh, Jesus. I mean, the ways in which that would be so wrong, I couldn't count them all. And yet, we have this guy, Clarence Thomas, and that's another thing that pisses me off about this, because to get him over the finish line when he was nominated for the court, the Republicans had the nerve and the audacity to play the race card. Now, brother told me something. This was, oh God, I was young, teenager, either right before or right after I came out to service the first time. And one night, I was hanging out with the crew, and this older cat, right? He was just basically talking to us. And he said something very interesting. And I think that people of color need to pay careful attention to this, and to a point in the Jewish community also. But what this older black gentleman told us was that, don't fall for this thing. And I fear that that's one of the problems with left-wing politics, all right? With progressive politics, with democratic politics. Because people get elected solely because they have a Latino last name, or because he's a brother, of course. And I remember around that time a song came out, every brother ain't a brother, every sister ain't a sister. And since we live in a country that is so diverse, I think the qualifications for any public office, elected or appointed, has to be not just because the person is black, but what is it that they stand for? I give you an example. You got this guy, Herschel Walker, fairly decent football player back in the day. But this guy knows absolutely nothing about anything in the public interest. I mean, he might even have opinions. But, his problem is that the opinions that he might have, he can't even express himself. I mean, where is he on economics? Where is he on the CRT? Where is he on gun control? Where is he on the Ukraine? Where is he on a woman's right to choose? And why? If you've ever listened to this guy, you understand where I'm coming from. And also the fact that he has said, I believe, that he doesn't wish to have debates. I believe that he said that. Whether he said it or not, he runs like hell from questions, and I don't understand how you think you have the right, the moral right, to say that you want to represent the public interest of the people of your state. But either you are so inarticulate, or that you are so uninformed that you don't even want to talk about issues. I don't understand. What makes you think you have the moral right to do that? And this makes me despise the Republican Party of today, this new jack Republican Party. It makes me despise them even more, and I say it openly, because I think that is a great insult to black Americans, quite frankly. Listen, I know some people might be tired of hearing it. I really don't give a crap, but I'll say it. I say it for a reason. I was raised in the Republican Party. My dad was the district leader in West Harlem for the Republican Party. He ran for the Assembly, State Assembly, all right, as a Republican. So this business about I just hate Republicans, no, that's BS. To tell you the truth, I'm I'm very ashamed of the Republican Party. I think a lot of people should be ashamed of the Republican Party. It's like that guy that when I used to fight when I was stationed in Florida, when I was stationed in D.C. in Florida, and I used to fight in competition. And there might be one guy, right, that we always wind up getting classed up against each other. That's my opponent, right? We go into the Queen or the dojo or the square. It's my job to try and kick his ass, and likewise for him to try and kick mine. But outside of the ring, we don't want to see anything bad happen to each other. And this is what has happened to the Republican Party. Somebody told them that, let's follow Donald Trump and go to the dark side. And that's what they did, and that's where they are. And as a consequence, they have done things, many of which deserve to be in, those who participated deserve to be in prison. It's like these clowns that got they've been subpoenaed to appear before the committee. And they're sitting up there saying, well, nah, we don't want to go. You don't want to do what? The Congress of your country, the body in which you serve, tells you, hey, something dreadful happened on this particular January 6th that almost cost us our government. We're trying to find out exactly why and who's to blame, and you have the unmitigated gall and temerity to say that you don't want to show? Are you freaking crazy? Are you out of your mind? I heard somebody say the other day that you're going to have more cops voting Democratic. That's why. That's why. Now, I know you're going to still have a good amount of cops that they're just going to be iron heads. And they're just going to say, well, the Democrats, they only care about Black Lives Matter. They don't give a damn about cops, and we're all gangsters as far as they're concerned. Yeah, some cops are going to continue to have that backwards ass notion. But on the other hand, you have a lot of intelligent men and women in law enforcement. And they see what's going on. They see what's happening. And they're saying to themselves, well, damn, I thought ever since Nixon and Reagan, the Republicans, that's a party of law and order. Well, yeah, but unfortunately, the Republican Party does not want to obey the law anymore. And see, this is where you have a problem, right? See, the Republican Party, and I'm saying this, right? They can't win, all right? They cannot win. They could not win a fair election, especially if there was no electoral college. There's no way in hell. Because look at the poll on the issues: abortion, national health insurance, oh God, minimum wage, a decent, fair minimum wage, tax reform. Everything that the Republican Party says no, usually at least 65 to 80%, 85% of the American people say, yeah, this is what we want. Just like you saw what happened, what was it, yesterday? Within the last 3 days, Canada just said, yo, the hell with this. Boom. Automatic weapons, gone. Right? The sale of weapons, gone. Right? See, that's how a democracy works. They see a danger and they say, we're going to eliminate this danger as best we can. But here in America, we have gotten to the point where our leadership does not function. The Republicans, they have their own evil set of agendas, stopping women from controlling their body, afraid when people try to discover their true sexuality, education. Now they're worried about education. They talk about CRT and all this other crap, right? Generally speaking, Republicans don't want you to learn a goddamn thing unless, you might perhaps be one of their chosen few. But for the vast majority of people, the Republican Party does not want to see a country where 75% of the American people have at least an associate's degree. They don't want to see that. As a matter of fact, no slick, tricky politician wants to see that. Why? Because if you had a country like that, you would not be able to constantly keep pulling the wool over people's eyes, especially working class white people. Seriously, you would not be able to. I'm not saying this because I'm anti-white. Quite the contrary. And you conservatives out there, especially you folks that served in the military, or lived originally from the South or what have you, okay? I know you. I lived amongst you, both military and as a civilian, right? I don't want to see anything bad happen to you or anyone else. But we got to start telling the truth in this damn country. Otherwise, we're not going to have a country. And I tell you, the thing that will kill this nation if we keep going the way we're going is the Republican Party. The Republican Party is a clear and present danger to the American way of life. And I had to say that. But getting back to Clarence Thomas, the possibility that he should be in jail, because we don't know what cases that they have ruled upon. And the information that, thank God, was able to come out about the, excuse me a second, let me wipe the old glasses here. But the information that came out about the proposed killing of Roe versus Wade, now they want the clerks to have their phones checked, right? Now, this, my personal opinion, I believe that this is something the Democratic Party should jump in. You're going to give these law clerks the third degree, yet you have Clarence Thomas sitting up there. This bozo, he's supposed to adjudicate cases that he is personally related to. Now, I didn't go on to go to law school, okay? I'm working on a grad degree in public administration now. Show you how funny, after a period of time, how directions might change. But I do believe that Clarence Thomas is a walking, talking example of a conflict of interest. Every time he opens his mouth, and remember, he sat up there for 10 years and didn't say jack, okay? But every time he opens his mouth, it's like a conflict of interest. So I think if anybody needs to be examined, it should be him. And we need to take away these special privileges because for the Supreme Court because they don't deserve them. Most of them are political hacks. Okay, and I am fully in agreement with FDR about basically increasing the size of the Supreme Court. You know, because what we have now, it's it's ridiculous. It is freaking ridiculous. You are going to basically use a precedent from a guy that hunted witches, and you're going to use that precedent from the witch hunter to say that, yeah, I'm going to withdraw this constitutional right. There's something very wrong with that, and there's something very wrong with a country that permits that to happen, quite frankly. And I'm glad to see that more and more people are telling Democrats that they need to stand up and fight back. Stop being afraid. You guys are, you're on the side of the angels here, and you have to realize that. In here, okay? And you need to stand up and basically tell people like, what's his name, Cruz. Oh, God, what a sweetheart. Ted Cruz. You need to stand up and basically call him out for the laughing stock that he is every day if necessary. And Democrats, you need to, I know you have to be in Congress and the state legislatures, what have you. Screw that. You need to spend half your time out in the streets, walking around your district. See, that's what you need to be about. Now, there is something going on in the Western world. And that's where people like Bannon and Trump and their ilk come in. Because, see, Britain had the same problem, right? Without the violence. But what they do have is a mess. And why? Because the same type of bigotry and right-wing nonsense that was allowed to cross the Atlantic and infect our kissing cousins in the British Isles. And because of that, they did this stupid thing called Brexit. They left the European, I don't know, I call it a market, and this embryonic, political organization. In other words, they said, well, we're leaving Europe, right? And ever since they have done that, which has been about, 3 years, 4 years, the people over there have been having a very, very hard time. A lot of things are not being done, and it's just like here. When you're talking about Pampers, or whether you're talking about formula, or whether you're talking about eggnog or any damn thing else. Because a lot of the folks that were delivering the goods, they weren't English, they were immigrants. And that's why you can go into Britain, in England I should say, and you're going to see a lot of empty shelves and what have you. As a matter of fact, they screwed it up so bad, it looks like in our lifetime, you're not going to have a Northern Ireland. You're just going to have an Ireland. Because Brexit also affected that relationship. And it's just like here. Now, I don't agree with Joe Biden about everything, but I think that he's being unfairly targeted because he happens to be sitting in the White House. But I think we need to spend more time taking a look at why the problems that we are facing economically and in terms of logistics, supply. A lot of that has been going on because, number one, a lot of these things, for example, food, right? The job of feeding the American people is not done by Harvard scholars, okay? It's not done by people with master's degrees and bachelor's degrees and PhDs, okay? For the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years, that job has been done by immigrants, primarily immigrants of color. And this thing that the Republican Party created, this hatred of immigrants, in particular dark-skinned immigrants, what it's done, it's blown up in our face. Just like it blew up in the face of in England, that's what's happening here. Who the hell do you think the food that you eat, who the hell do you think picks it? Where the hell do you think it comes from? You think it just drops out of the sky? This country cannot survive without immigration. Now, don't get me wrong, and I say this, and I know I stick my neck out, but I feel it's the truth. Someday, if we survive our own foolishness, someday you are going to have a one world government, like it or not, because it's logical, right? But for right now, for our lifetime, we are organized into various nation states, right? So I'm not saying that what you ought to do is just tear down all the fences and everything. No. What I am saying is that you learn that, hey, these people are my neighbors, okay? Mexico, Central America, these are our neighbors. And you treat your neighbors with respect. That's the first thing, okay? Second of all, you make a system that is rational, but also fair and humane. And you sit in a room with the principals involved, and you fix up something. You don't get on this nationwide hate kick. Oh, let's kill the immigrants! And oh man, you should hear some of the crap on some of these right-wing shows. It's incredible. And I tell you frankly, a country that's full of Ciprianis and O'Briens and Poscolinskis and on and on and on, they have no business talking down to immigrants. All right? That's just a fact. Remember, people were living here before you came here, before you brought me here, all right? And you need to start walking around with maybe a little bit of humility and knock off the right-wing racist hubris. Because God don't like ugly. Even an agnostic like me will tell you, God do not like ugly. And especially for the last several years, we've been getting pretty damn ugly. The GOP and the racist right wing, they can never forgive America for putting in a black man twice. And that just took their cake. And we have to get our butts away from that. And we have a situation that in America, in our Congress, there's an anti-terror bill, all right? A domestic anti-terror bill. Now, uh, I don't think that a country that leads the world in child killings in schools and in churches. So if you're in the fourth grade, you can get it. If you're in mature, I don't like to use the term elderly, but if you're an older person sitting in church, you can get it. If you happen to be Bob Gums going to the supermarket trying to pick up a six-pack and a bag of Doritos, you can get your ass shot off. So I think a country like that has a need for some type of anti-terror legislation. But you know what? We can't pass it. Why? Because the Republican Party doesn't want to offend the people who they feel are their voters. In other words, to paraphrase Winston Churchill, never in the history of democracies has one minority group of people, conservatives, done so little for everybody else. And that is the case that we have here in America. How the hell do you give people a pass that run around talking about replacement theory? And see, this is even after Homeland Security, the FBI, have told them in Congress that anti-Jewish hatred of Latinos and Asians and naturally blacks and indigenous people, violence against them, those groups I've just mentioned, that's 75% of the political violence in this country. Not, the idea of, the wild mujahideen, fascio Islamic cats running around. Allah Akbar, boom, That's bullshit. Okay? It was around for a little while, and then it left. Okay? So it's not Islamic terrorism. That ain't our problem. Okay? And just like I was mentioning earlier about some of these right-wing Catholics that want to stop Pelosi from taking communion, I want the church to explain to the American people why don't they put that same distinction with people that preach the white replacement theory. The white replacement theory is getting people killed, in case you haven't noticed. In case you didn't notice El Paso, in case you didn't notice Pittsburgh, in case you didn't notice Buffalo, and a few other places, right? It gets people killed. It costs lives. So why in the hell aren't you making a point of saying, listen, if you run around with these white replacement theory guys, you ain't getting communion. Now, if the church did that, I would strenuously disagree. Even as a former Catholic, I would disagree. But you know what? I would respect the American Catholic Church a hell of a lot more if they actually did something like that. Because, see, that way they would be showing, our crazy our crazy kookamamie idea about life, it covers the whole sector. It covers the whole deal about life, not just our one hang up. See, I would disagree with that, but I would respect them for that, and I think the American people will respect them also. And believe me, when you talk about Christianity in America, we are on the same glide path where Europe they're already there. Okay, you got countries like Ireland, and that really freaked me out when I found out about that. As deep as I was in Irish history and Catholicism, because I was went to Roman Catholic school, but there's something like about 60, somewhere between 60 and 70% atheist. I mean, when you ask them, they'll tell you, yeah, we're 60 to 70% atheist. Same thing in the Norwegian countries, same thing in Central Europe. So, all the Christian countries in Western Europe, they're atheists, or they're half atheists now. Or, excuse me, they're majority atheists or agnostic now. And that's what's happening here in America. And see, the reason that it's happening here in America, and I would also probably say in Europe also, because they, from time to time, they look on what we're doing here, and they see the Roman Catholic Church, who actually went backwards. They have gone backwards from the time I was in Catholic school. I guess you could say, I mean, I do realize New York was kind of a progressive spot for Catholicism in many respects. But in general, the church has really gone backwards. And then with these evangelicals, you saw that idiot preacher on YouTube talking about, oh, Democrats are demons, they're going to hell. And now he's crying about, because he what's that, 301, 501, that churches get tax exemption, right? I'm going to tell you, and I think that's something else that the Holy Father in Rome is looking at, right? Because in America, they don't tax churches. They don't. I claim to be a historical geek, but I can't remember just how that came to be. But we don't, right now, churches are not taxed. But see, that's one of the problems about Martin Luther King. Oh, I love him. Met him once personally, right up here at Riverside Church. But the fact that he was a preacher, it did help for the civil rights movement, but it also took away something from the black community. And a lot of the people out there, they might not be old enough to remember people like Ruskin. Oh, God. The guy with the Pullman Porters. You had some giants and who were not ministers, right? They were business people. They were political activists. Like, for example, the March on Washington. Everybody looks and they see, the I Have a Dream speech. Look, King did not put that together, all right? Bayard Rustin, I think, and a few other people. Baldwin, Jimmy Baldwin, folks like that. And this whole business about, everybody got to be a reverend to be a civil rights activist, that's something that came up after King was assassinated. But it was not like that in the black community, before that. And I think that has kind of hamstrung. You see the problems going on with the Southern Baptist Convention thingy going on right now. The black community kind of got tied up in that. And see, now the white community is going to have to go through a thing where they're going to have to separate the righteousness of certain causes as opposed to the BS that, like for evangelicals, have been putting out there. You know, if you happen to be Jimmy Carter and you tell me that you are an evangelical, I'll sit down and I'll politely listen to what you have to say. But for the most part, evangelicals have helped to destroy Christianity in this country. And that's something that I think we are all starting to see that now, right? They're like a throwback to 1855, 1856, when some of the denominations were torn in half over the slavery issue. And you have that plus the fact that people just don't, they just see the whole Bible thing as like a big fairy tale. So you have those two forces competing with each other in this country. And then you have the Roman Catholic Church, which they have the, how should I say it? They have the, hey, you've been around. One thing that Roman Catholic Church says is true. They are the true original Christian church. And that gets into a whole lot of historical things, Rome, the Byzantine Empire, so on and so forth. But those forces, the backwardsness or going back of the American Catholic Church, the evangelicals, and the Southern Baptist Convention folks, right? And all these three problems put together, right? That is why every year you have less and less people attending Christian church services. I mean, it's not nutty me saying it. It's a fact. You can look it up. And that is something else that America is going to have to take a look at. I think what this calls for is to strive for a society where the key point is justice. I think if we could get on that track, I think a lot of other things will eventually take care of themselves, as the old folks say. But it's a problem when 75% of the murders and killings in this country, political killings, are done by Americans. That's a problem. And always remember something else. America, the country America, I'm not talking about the folks that came from England, and the Pilgrims, and the Puritans, and even the Catholics originally in Maryland, and all this other good stuff, right? That's not America. Those are people who came to this continent, who came to these shores. America started 1776, and we made it official in when we adopted the Constitution? 1787? Yeah, 1787. And our first president was, 1789. So that's when America was started. The United States of America started in 1789, right? And if folks forget that the country, the United States, was created partially in a reaction against the authoritarianism of the church. See, primarily the Catholic Church, but also the other churches, right? Remember, people were going out against Thomas Jefferson in the 1800 election of 1800. Not only because at that time it was common knowledge that he had a black mistress in his house and had children by her, but they were in many areas they were more concerned about the fact that he was supposedly anti-Christian. Fortunately, those forces did not win, and Jefferson became president. But yeah, that was a big thing. And it was a big thing of Thomas Jefferson because he didn't want the church to have some kind of tyrannical rule over the minds of Americans. And that's why he came up with the thing about this wall between church and state. And I think that we need to pay attention to that wall more, especially nowadays. Now, I do believe that this election coming up in November, right? This is a damn important election. I'm not going to sit up here and say, oh, well, this is the most important election of our time. Listen, I have some rough news for you. Notice I say rough news because every election, as I would say, in this part of the 21st century, is the most important election of our time. You know, I have to learn, you have to learn. It's fast out here now. Things happen quick, boom, bam, you know. One reason is because of that, do we have one in here? They got it out there. Computer has really sped up how we move through this life. So you have to vote. That's all that means. That has to be part of your regular regimen. Like you go to the doctor once a year, well, you go to vote on election day. That's something that you have to do. You have to stay aware of what the hell is going on. You saw it happen with what the Supreme Court was trying to do. I got a funny feeling that since the public is now aware of this, I got a funny feeling about two things. Keep an eye out, see if we're going to have some change from the Supreme Court with this thing about, no abortion. States have a right to stop all abortions for any reason. I believe there's going to be some change to that, number one. And number two, we've had 31 people slaughtered in less than 2 weeks. Now, the Supreme Court was supposed to be putting out a law saying, excuse me, basically making it so that, everybody can have a gun. Guns, guns, guns. And that if a state tries to slow down or impinge upon your right to walk around carrying a weapon, they're wrong. I think the Supreme Court is going to back off of that one somewhat. Because, see, the Supreme Court is scared. Because remember, they don't run themselves, per se. If you have enough senators, congresspeople, and senators that say, hey, we need to have 15 people on the Supreme Court, it's going to happen. So these are the things that we have to watch out for. Pay attention. I guess if I want to say anything today, at this time of the Memorial Day weekend, think about your veterans. I know I'm kind of advertising here. Yeah, U.S. Navy, all the way. But seriously, think about your vets. Um, I mean, what? For the last 30, 35 years, we've been in the desert. We've been in the Mediterranean, and in Africa, all over the Middle East, uh, fighting and dying. Think about that. Think about that. And also, think about what it costs for this country to be this country. I'm really into the Civil War, and I think that people need to study that. Don't let these nuts who keep crying about some CRT, something I never heard about until my freshman year in college, don't let those people stop your kids from learning about this country. All right? The good and the bad. Because a country is just like a man. It's comprised of both things, good and bad. Listen, folks, you enjoy the holiday. Take care of each other, and may the Creator bless you. Bye. See you next week. Same place, same time, same channel.